Another issue that has come out of one of the committees is the proposition of a two-tier system of government. Can the present Nigerian constitution accommodate the scrapping of the local government?
Absolutely. Yeah. Whichever way. The problem is local governments have been impeded by states. But it's also difficult to say that local governments can exist autonomously from states. So the only way is to say that state governments ought to control them. I think that's the way to go. If you create autonomous local governments, you're going to add considerable confusion, because we're not yet at the political level of maturity to have independent local governments. If the local governments disagree with the state policy, there's chaos. So I think, on balance, it is better that the local governments are subsidiary to the, to the state. Yeah.
Because I know you also have a suit in court that is challenging funding to
Absolutely.
local governments who have caretaker committees.
Absolutely.
So if we follow this, it will knock out that case anyway.
It will knock out that case. Okay. Yeah, because the reason why I'm pursuing that case is to strengthen local government administration. But that is different from local governments being constitutionally recognized. That's also going to be a big debate at the devolution of powers committee meeting.
So they're still scratching the surface.
Yeah.
Now, devolution of power, of course, goes hand in hand with resource control, and it's also one of the issues on the front burner here. What model would you suggest?
It depends what you make of a federation. Generally, what we say about a federation is that there's no super model. There's no, you don't say the US model will work or the Australian model or the Canadian model. What works is what works for you. So what works for Nigeria? There is a sensitivity about oil and gas, the hydrocarbons. The North is sensitive to the fact that to devolve power means to remove, hydrocarbon control from the federal exclusive list and transfer it to the states. Therefore, hydrocarbons will no longer be amenable to be distributed as a national resource. That they're very strong on that. On the other hand, is the view that you can only unleash the resources of Nigeria if you localize them. For instance, from the southeast, where I come from, we have one of the best coal reserves in the world. It's not being used because Abuja is too far from Enugu, and there's gold, there's bauxite, there's all sorts. And the only way it can have impact is to tell the states that possess them, look, take your resources and do what you want with them. But how do you now deal with the concerns of the North? So again, I came up with what I hope may be a compromise. You see, in the attempt to build a new constitution, the key word is compromise. Anyone who stays in his own rigidly, it won't work. It must come to the center. Why don't we then say, look, let us agree that Nigeria has depended on hydrocarbons for the last 30 years. And if you give hydrocarbon to one region, there will be an earthquake. So generally, devolve resource control of all minerals to the regions where they are found, except for hydrocarbons. Create a sunset clause. Sunset because when the sun sets, the law saying that hydrocarbons shall be national resource will set. So let us say 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, it will set. That will give time to create new revenue sources. And then say, okay, to compensate the owners of hydrocarbons, we can take it from 13% to 20%, 25, 30, I don't know. So that's the way I see the balance.
2 blasts in the same area within a month. What does this say about our leadership and our method of policing?
The way to go is to decentralize the police force. I think that the model that will work in Nigeria is to look at certain institutions, police, INEC, judiciary, and agree, whether we like it or not, that the governors manipulate these institutions more than the president, because the president has a more difficult minefield to maneuver than the governor that can, easily
soften on all those
absolutely
structures.
So for me, I'd like to see for policing I would not do state police.
Why not?
There's
a wide clamor for state police, especially with these security challenges.
I'll do a hybrid.
Hybrid? How?
LASMA, for instance.
LASMA,
for instance. The concept in the US is municipal policing, yes, not state policing. The purpose of municipal policing is crime detection, safety and security issues. So the National Police Force, headed by the IG in Abuja, is too far. I will scrap the Ministry of Police Affairs. I will scrap the National Police Council. I will strengthen the National Police Commission and give a voice in that commission to all the key actors. So be it the 36 state governors or the 6 geopolitical leaders. So they'll have a voice in the appointment of the IG, in how you post police officers to the states, in particular the Commissioner of Police, give the state governor control over the Commissioner of Police. That solves it.
Give the state governor the control over the Commissioner of Police.
Yeah, that solves it. And make the police outside the political control of the president. So the issue of state police will die. The reason for the state police clamor is because it is felt that the president of Nigeria, whether it is Jonathan or any other person, interferes. So if you deal with all of that and decentralize the police force, you might arrive at the same situation that we are all calling about state police. So there's a strong recommendation I'm making that Section 153 of the Constitution, which provides for so-called independent executive agencies, be scrapped and replaced with the type of provision you have in South Africa, Chapter 9 of their Constitution, which lists out a number of institutions that grow and help democracy. So I will put INEC, Judiciary, Police, EFCC, Auditor General, Accountant General, and the like, and then create a fund on the first charge, so that the way in which these agencies are funded have nothing to do with the executive. So you balance out, because the constitution is so skewed in favor of the executive that if you do not also balance that out, all what we're doing will come to naught.
Now let's end with the issue of the NBA and the NBA politics. You've sent a letter to the president of the NBA saying that the NBA must stick with the zoning arrangement, and it's generating a lot of controversy.
We should all remember that the NBA collapsed in 1991 in Port Harcourt. Reason was the North had felt excluded. They had never produced the president. The North. So when Dalhatu wanted to go, there was chaos. And Femi Falana and co went to court. This is school year, blah, blah, blah. To cut a long story short, the NBA went moribund. On NBA's resurrection, it was clear that there was a need to avoid the politics of the past. In any case, rather than all this beg all the time, why don't we create an institutional mechanism that will resolve the problem? And the first principle was consensus building, inclusion. I regret that in that meeting, the Midwest was omitted. So we had 3 zones: the East, the North, and the West. But to the extent that it has not been addressed, my support goes to the Southwest. Not because I have any particular candidate, but because that is their turn. When it goes to the North in 2016, the same principle will apply. If you destroy that now, I tell you, in 2016, the NBA will become like a political party. 50 candidates will emerge.
Because, well, the Southwest has not endorsed anybody for now.
You don't have to endorse anybody. If they like, 50 candidates can come from the Southwest. If the Midwest says that they are part of the West, which is what they are saying now, isn't it?
Yes.
Why was Allega endorsed by the Midwest Forum, which is not a zone?
Properly so recognized.
It's not a zone.
Okay.
It's not a zone. It's like saying the Middle Belt Forum endorses so-and-so candidate, whereas it is not a zone. It's It's a sub-zone in the zone. Like in our Eastern Bar, we have about 3 sub-zones. But Okewale would never have said that he is running on the platform of the Rivers Bayelsa sub-zone. Nobody will recognize him. He won because
all the zones came together.
All the sub-zones came together and handed him the flag and said, go forward. So Alege's problem now, which is not his fault, is that he has no recognized zone. And that is the big injustice to the Midwest. So the way to go is to, in fact, they should thank me for actually bringing it up. Otherwise, it'll be hanging. And then what will happen will be that lawyer politicians of the NBA will just be collecting money. They'll be collecting money, telling lies. This one come, I support you, I take money. This one come, I support you, I take money. I wouldn't do that. So I've spoken the truth. I have nothing to gain personally. I've shown you I have nothing to gain. If there's anybody to support, it is the Midwest that came to me and offered me 100% support in my time. The Southwest did not. But that is not the reason why I would now change the story, merely because they didn't support me. So it is blind. My letter to the president comes out of altruism for the NBA to succeed.
The courts across the country will, as usual, be busy this week. But here are some of the top stories we're tracking. They'll keep the courts occupied this week and in the days ahead.
Last week, Tuesday, Justice Ahmed Mohammed of the Federal High Court, Abuja, denied claims making the rounds that he issued an order stopping investigations into the allegations that the Minister of Petroleum Resources, Diezani Alison Madueke, spent 10 billion naira to charter a private jet for her trips in the last 2 years. The judge had initially blamed journalists for the misinformation before he was informed that it emanated from the House of Representatives. To set the record straight, Justice Mohammed adjourned the hearing and ordered the House to appear before the court on Monday the 5th to explain where such order came from. The judge said he only ordered the defendants, the National Assembly and the House to be put on notice after the plaintiff's counsel moved an ex parte motion praying for an order of interim injunction to restrain the House from summoning the minister. Another minister in the news is the Minister of Finance, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. She may face a contempt charge for disobeying a judgment on statutory transfers delivered by the Federal High Court sitting in Abuja in respect of a suit filed by the group Center for Social Justice. This follows a notice of consequences of disobedience to a court order dated April the 29th served on the minister by the court. Justice Abdul Kafarati, through an order of mandamus dated February the 25th, had compelled Mrs. Okonjo-Iweala to grant the group access to the details of the statutory transfers in the 2013 Appropriation Act. The lead director, Center for Social Justice, Mr. Eze Onyekwere, however, says since the order was made, the minister had refused to comply with it, thereby violating Section 4 of the Freedom of Information Act. The group had demanded for a breakdown of the lump sums earmarked in the 2012 budget as statutory transfers. These include the 150 billion naira for the National Assembly, 85 billion naira for the National Judicial Council, 54 billion naira for the Niger Delta Development Commission, and 40 billion naira for the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. On Tuesday, May the 6th, the Court of Appeal Abuja Division will begin hearing on the appeal filed by Chief Victor Ume, erstwhile National Chairman of the All Progressives Grand Alliance, APGA, challenging the Federal High Court judgment that threw him and the former National Secretary of the party out of office. Justice Abubakar Abdul Kafarati of the Federal High Court Abuja had on January the 15th, 2013 ruled that not only had Chief Ume and Shinkafi's tenure expired as of December 2012, but an attempt by Chief Ume to smuggle himself back to office through an affirmative convention was ultra-virus in the APGA constitution. Justice Abdul Kafarati stressed that insofar as the Awka High Court and the Court of Appeal okayed the National Convention of April the 8th last year that brought Maxi Oku and other members of the National Working Committee into office, Chief Ume had ceased to be the National Chairman of APGA. Chief Ume had rejected the ruling of the Federal High Court and is headed to the Appeal Court claiming that the Federal High Court in Abuja lacked jurisdiction to entertain the matter. Former Chief Security Officer Major Hamza Al-Mustafa has also gone back to court. Last week Wednesday, he dragged an Islamic cleric, Sheikh Sanusi Khalil, before the Upper Sharia Court in Kaduna State on charges of defamation of character. The summons to the cleric stated that on a Friday of December 2013, Sheikh Khalil preached a sermon at the Sani Zangon Daura Jumat Mosque, alleging that Al-Mustafa was contracted by the government to train snipers to kill some 1,000 people in order to promote the political ambition of President Goodluck Jonathan. The absence of the presiding judge, Malam Mustafa Umar, however, stalled the hearing of the case, which was consequently adjourned to May the 22nd. The case in court comes 5 months after former President Obasanjo made similar allegations without mentioning names in an open letter to President Jonathan.
And with that, we round off this week's episode of the program. If you visit our YouTube page, you'll find these and other past episodes of the program. Watch it, like it, share it, and do let's keep the conversation going on Facebook, email, or Twitter. I am Shola Sheyeli. Thank you for watching.